I'm Dr. Teresa A. Smith. I'm the host of Talk with TAS, and today I have a very special guest who is sitting down with me. She's an extraordinary woman whose voice has graced legendary stages from the church to the White House. With over 4 decades in the industry, Kevette Burwell has not only performed alongside icons like Richard Smallwood and Ricky Dillard, but also has remained a powerful voice of inspiration. Her upcoming album, Two Sides, One Story, is a testament to faith, resilience, and trusting God through every season of life.
Yes.
For that, welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much. I'm so honored to be here with you.
Well, thank you everyone who is joining us. Kevette, many people are in a season of uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
You performed for presidents alongside legends, yet I'm sure that there have been times that you felt, I'm going to use the word unseen.
Mm-hmm.
You could say not quite up to par, but I'm going to say unseen.
Mm-hmm.
What's your personal testimony of how God has kept you when no one was watching?
So it's got to be faith. You got to believe that God is a keeper.
Yes, ma'am.
So I trust him with my whole heart. I trust him wholeheartedly. I've been through so much in my lifetime, but I trust God. I've been trusting God. My faith has not wavered in everything that I've gone through. And so it's got to be that I absolutely trust him with my entire life. I don't know what the big plan is or what the big picture is that he has in store for me. So I trust him daily to lead me, to guide me, and to direct my path.
Well, now that sounds easier than done.
Yeah.
Do you have a special, some people meditate, some people have affirmations, declarations, there's certain music that they listen to, certain scriptures that they wrap themselves in. Is there one or two things that you do to help you stay grounded?
Yeah, so I lean on this. So my very favorite scripture is Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love the Lord and are the called according to his purpose. And so I don't care what I've been through in life, the traumas that have come to my life. I just believe that somehow, some way, it's all going to work together for my good. So I lean on that scripture, but I also focus on the scripture that says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so when I go into those places, because, people may not know my backstory, but I've had some traumatic losses over the last years, and I can go into this place of grief. And when I go there, I tell people all the time, when grief comes, I ride that wave. And then when that is over, I still put 2 feet on the ground and I keep moving. But I had to transform my mind. So the Bible says to think on things that are lovely, that are pure, that have good report. And so I have to be transformed by the renewing of my mind. And so those are 2 things that I hang my hat on. I transform my mind, my thought process, to think on things that God tells me to think on, and to focus on things other than my grief or things that are happening in my life. And also knowing that it's all going to work together for my good some way, somehow.
And I love that because, with the Romans 8:28, it's that last clause or that last sentence that I think people forget, that are called according to his purpose.
Yes.
Because sometimes we can be toiling, but be in the wrong place, be doing good work.
Right.
Be doing good work, but be in the wrong place. So I like the fact that you quoted that part of that scripture, because to me that brings true clarity. And when you talk about we have to be renewed in that transformation, you got to have clarity in order to be transformed.
Yes.
But now when I think about, as I was prepping, and I wanted to look at things a little different from what maybe some folks would do, whether some people say more levels, more devils. I'm
Yeah.
probably misquoting,
Yeah. Yeah.
but some people believe that when you made it, that life gets easier. But like I said, more levels, more devils.
Hmm.
What's that one moment when you almost let go, but God stopped you, or excuse me, God stepped in
Hmm.
and reminded you that He was a keeper?
Yes.
Was there ever that moment?
Oh, absolutely. So about in 2020, my son passed away, and that took the absolute breath away from me when and the circumstances behind his death. It was in a car accident, but I had been looking for him for, I talked to him that Saturday morning, and he never made it home. He's on his way home, but he never made it home. And so I began to, call around and try to look for him and see if his friends had heard from him. And then I got my daughter, who was also doing the same thing, trying to figure out where he was. She contacted one of his friends, and his friends contacted a young lady he was seeing. And the young lady told me that she had fallen asleep on the phone with him, and she was awakened to a crash. So in my mind, I was just like, at what point were you going to tell somebody that? And so then I began to be like, oh my goodness, my son is out there somewhere. But the grace of God is we had this feature on our phones called Find My Friends. And so I was able to figure out where his phone last pinged. And I said, okay, I know the route that he was coming home. And so I began to look for him, and I began to call the police and say, have you had any contact with this car? Or I told him his name. And the entire weekend, I had no idea where my son was. And, as I began to try to figure out things, of course, you want to be like, okay, God, I know you're in control. I know things are happening. But then you also have this thing in the back of your mind, oh my goodness, what is happening? Why am I going through this? I didn't want to be the parent that your child went missing and you never found him. And so I literally, my best friend came over. All day Saturday, I was just looking for him. I didn't even call family and say, I can't find him. And until that evening. And so when I called, of course, when I called my family and said, I can't find, and my son's name was Trey, I can't find Trey, then everybody came over, and I called my girlfriend, my best girlfriend, and she came over. But when she left, I said this to her, and I said, as I prayed to God, I said to him, if you took him, I'm okay. I just need to find him. And so that Monday, um, I had spoken to some of his friends. I said, I want everybody to meet me at my house, and we're just going to go on Suitland Parkway and see if we can find him. I know his car came down Suitland Parkway. And we all just stretched this parkway, and we got out of our cars and we started looking for him. And my sister's pastor was one of the people who came to help us. And he said the Lord told him to look in this certain place. And he looked, and they looked down, and there was the car flipped over and everything. And so my sister called me. Of course, she was upset. And she's like, we found the car. We found the car. And in that moment, I was just like, okay, God, now what do I really do? I don't, I, Thank you. You answered my prayers,
Yeah.
because I said, I need to find him. You answered my prayers. But I was like, in that moment, what do you do? And when I got to the position that my sister and her pastor were, where they found the car, they wouldn't let me go down the hill. It was down an embankment. They wouldn't let me go down the hill. I'm okay, but I need to go down the hill. So they wouldn't let me. So in the midst of all of that, I called the police, and, I said to them, I've been calling out all weekend, trying to
Mhm.
see, I told you where he was coming. Nobody came out and looked for him, and we came out and we found him. But in that moment where I was just about to give up, the Lord reminded me to give thanks in all things. So And everything that was going on around me, I had a bunch of his friends there, and they were looking for him, and they were, of course, upset. But in that moment, I just began to pray. And then when the police came, and of course, they had to, seal off the scene and try to figure out everything. I sat in my sister's pastor's car, and I just began to worship. That's all I knew to do. I have a grandson, and he was probably about 1 or 2 months at that time. But sometimes I would just hold him and do a worship medley, and I just began to do this worship medley in his car. That's all I knew to do. I was getting ready to go there and be,
Yes.
and upset, and of course I was upset, but I just began to praise and worship God because He answered my prayer. I said, God, oh, Gary, get a little bit.
That's okay.
I said, if you took him, I'm okay. I just need to find him. And God allowed me to find him. And God allowed me, to be okay in that moment. Because there were so many people there just trying to help. But I was just like, okay, God, thank you. And I just began to worship. And that's where I find strength. I find strength in thanking God and worshiping God, and depending on God to be my strength and my keeper.
You know, Kevette, you mentioned several real nuggets there. I don't want the audience to lose them. You prayed to God and you asked Him, because He does provide. He does answer our prayers.
Yes.
He answered your prayer, and He sent the right person to see the car. He
Yes.
sent a pastor.
Yeah.
It could have been any of those people out there, but He sent a pastor.
Yes.
And immediately the pastor knew what had to happen.
Yes.
From a spiritual perspective. Not the everyday legal, we got to get, no, not that, from a spiritual perspective. So things began to shift immediately. And then when you found out, and then you're asking God, help me, I think about how He used you once you started, giving thanks, that principle, give thanks in all things. In all things, give thanks. He used you with your talent, because then you started doing a worship medley to then settle. And that may be not the right word, but that's the word I'm going to use right now. Those young men and young girls who came to help you find your son, but to help them find their friend.
Yes. Absolutely.
Because even though I'm speaking for them, and you never speak for people, but I'm going to put myself slightly in a person's shoe this time. Even though we're expecting the best, but we know time has lapsed.
Yes.
We know time has lapsed, but we're still expecting the best.
Yes.
And we're afraid, but we're going to do what we can do to support you and to help find him. But when the reality comes and we have to accept it, how do we accept it?
Right. Yeah.
And God used you as the mother to then mother all of those people to help them. And to me, that's so significant, because even in your grief, He used you.
Yeah.
He used you. And because you understand that you draw your strength from Him, then you depend upon Him. What a gift to give to those young men and young girls that were out there supporting you and supporting your son. What a gift.
Even like they even at his funeral, they came out. It was so many people who came out. And one of the things I said at the funeral was, I know God is sovereign. Life and death is His business. He can do whatever He wants to do, however He wants to do it. I said, but there's purpose in everything also. There is purpose. And if one of his friends found God in his death, I'm good. I'm one, if just one, if one of them.
It's one. Absolutely. Well, now I want to welcome Addie from Africa is with us. We got Sexy Mama 73 that's with us. And always Shirt CZ. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you for joining us. Also, hi Jesus Blackman 23. Thank you for joining us. He's like, hello, beautiful black women. Thank you so much. He's following you now. And hi, I'm going to mispronounce it, but forgive me. Syllabunzi Zigwheel. Thank you so much for joining us. And we've got Taylor Forrest joining us. Taylor Forrest. Um, uh, yes, it was the presidency. Addie and Addie said, but by his resting in the peaceful bosom of the Lord.
Yeah.
But yes, said, but he is resting in God's bosom.
Yes.
And the sexy mama 73
Yeah.
says her sister. Is that your sister? Okay. Thank you for joining us. Now let me lighten it up a little bit. Now your upcoming album, Two Sides, One Story. It's blending. Now unless I've got it right, it's gonna blend a little gospel and R&B. Now you know that's not an easy balance. So especially when people got this opinion about gospel and how it should sound and all that. How did your faith sustain you in staying true to your artistry when you got all this noise? Where you want to blend those two?
Yeah, I am, excuse me, I am absolutely a lover of gospel music, and I'm a gospel artist. Absolutely. And I remember as a young girl, I said, I'm only going to sing gospel music. I'm only going to sing gospel music. But growing up in my household, there was all types of music, especially old school R&B. And so I was like, I'm a lover of old school R&B also. And so I didn't want to, what I wanted to do was, well, let me go back. So my husband passed away in October 2019. And after he passed away, I began to write more music. I was writing more music. And a lot of times that music that came out was love songs. And so when I got with my producer, I said, okay, I want to record these love songs, and he said, okay. And so I was only supposed to record with him 2 songs. And after I did the first song, he's just like, you have to do a whole project. And I said, okay, so let's do, at first I was like, okay, let's do the 2 R&B and then let's do 2 gospel songs too. And he's like, you need a full project. So we need at least 10 songs. I said, okay, let's do 5 R&B and 5 gospel. And it's R&B, but it's really 2 sides, one story. It's really about love. It's really about love. It's God's love. It's love between man and woman. So 2 sides, one story. The one story is love. It's just 2 sides of love. So that's how we kind of came up with that concept for the project.
Well, let me tell you, I love the idea, and because you'll get it. Some people say, well, how nice you do it. It's just how I flow. I'm singing gospel one moment, then the next moment I'm singing R&B. It's just the way, because like you say, it's the love of music and it's what's moving me. So I love that concept of having half and half, or as you say, 2 sides, one story. I like that concept.
Thank you.
Now, as I was saying to Addie, yes, you have been singing in front of the president. So you have sung on some big stages that folks could only dream about. But now, behind the curtains, there's always something going on right before you walk on stage. Has there ever been a real-time moment, before you had to walk out where your faith was tested and you had to center yourself based upon your faith and your trust in God that you can share with us?
So, yeah, I think every time I approach an engagement where I have to sing, there's always that moment where I'm unsure, so to speak. And you have to, like, I'm often, if you see me before I sing, I'm very centered. I'm very like trying to focus because I'm talking to God. That's just the bottom line. I am saying, okay, Jesus, if you don't sing, it can't happen.
Come on.
So I'm always depending on God, to use the gift that he's put in me, for his glory. And so there's always, every single time, there's always that moment where I'm just like, okay, you got to trust God, Kevette. You can't do it in and of myself. I don't think I can do anything. I have to depend on God to sing through me, whatever. Like, even, even while I'm singing, I'm talking to God. Okay, now, whatever you sing to me, Father, that's what I'm gonna sing,
Yep.
And so you can practice and because I believe you should invest in yourself and you should practice and do all of that. But then when you get to that place where it's time for you to perform, you got to trust God, because
Mhm.
anything can happen in that performance. So I'm always trying to um, listen to see what God is saying to me, even in those moments where I'm out there singing. Okay, God, what next? What am I supposed to say next? What am I supposed to do next? What note am I supposed to sing next? What riff am I supposed to do next? I'm always trying to listen to what He says in those moments.
You know, Kevette, as I was prepping, I was thinking about how do you trust God? And I'm listening to you as you talk about before you walk out, you're centered because you're in communication with Him. Some people use meditation, some people use yoga. Is there a practice that you use that, and I know it's not, well, it is automatic, but automatic is hard to explain to somebody. Is there a practice that you use that connects you, that you're able to block out all of those people and all the things that are happening, say, backstage before you go on stage, so that you have that direct line to God? Is there a technique that you use? Because I'm asking because I know there are folks who are trying to be centered so that they can hear Him and they know what their next step should be.
So, the Bible tells us to always pray, right? And so I think we should always be in that state, in that mindset
Mhm.
of praying and let God speak to us in those moments. Now we have to be able to um, blot out the distractions of around. Sometimes I sing in the choir at church, and if I know that I'm going to lead a song, people are always they're always talking. We're in the line to go into the choir stand, and they're talking and they're talking and talking, and I talk with them to some degree. But once I get in the choir stand, I'm focused on what I have to do. Like I literally can be going through the song in my head while the choir is singing. And I'm singing, I'm singing, but sometimes I'm just like lip sync so I can focus on, okay, I gotta remember these words. What are the words? Okay, so what's the first note? I've gotta focus on that. And so I kind of try to just blot out the distractions and focus on what I have to do. And also talking to God, okay, Jesus, I'm gonna need you to
Yeah,
I'm gonna need you to
I need
sing.
you to help me.
Right. I'm gonna need you to help me to remember the song, to remember.
Mhm.
I'm gonna need you to. I need you. That is just the bottom line. I need you. I cannot do this without you.
Got you. And I'm thinking about, I grew up Baptist, I'm still Baptist, but I'm thinking about this hymn. I need you every, I'm trying to sing in front of y'all. I shouldn't even be trying to do that. Friend of mine said, I know you are trying to sing in front of a singer, but I'm hearing that lyric. I need you every hour. I
Every
need you. I
hour.
need you every hour. But now, Addie asked a question, and I want you to also tell the audience where they can get your music. But Addie wanted to know if you're still singing. Yes, she's still singing, Addie. She's got an album that's going to be released, which is called Two Sides, One Story. But would you also, he wanted to know some of the titles of your gospel song. So would you share some of the titles of your gospel songs, not necessarily the ones that are going to be just on this upcoming project with the audience?
So I've recorded with Reverend Stephen Hurd. There's a song I sing with him on his project called The Prayer, and that's been out for a few years. I also sing background for Marette Brown Clark, so you'll find me on a few of her projects, just singing in the background. But the single that is out now from my project is called "I Will Trust You," and it was absolutely birthed out of my trauma from losing my husband and my son, and trying to figure out what was next, and what am I supposed to do? And it was birthed out of that. And I just began to write the lyrics. I will trust you in spite of what I see. I will trust you. And so that is the single that is coming out. It's being played on radio, but it's not out for people
Okay.
to
Purchase it.
to purchase
Download it.
yet. And so that you will be able to get that on my website, KevetteBurwell.com, and that's coming real soon. And so everything will be there. I have a song on there called Thank You. There's a song called I did a cover of So Faithful.
Mm.
And so those are a few of the titles.
Well, Kevette, I think I'm saying it correctly that time. Thank you so much for being with me and my audience today. You have really blessed us. You have reminded us that God is a keeper, that
Yes.
faith will sustain us. And when we put our trust in God, no matter what it looks like, it's going to be okay.
Yes.
But we got to keep our hand in His hand,
Yes.
and it will be okay.
All be okay. Good, bad, or indifferent, it's all going to work together for our good.
Mm-hmm. For those who are called.
Those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose.
Absolutely. Eddie was just saying, because I preach every now and then, and I use gospel music whole preaching, and I would like to enjoy playing a song. Well, you will certainly be able to do that.
Yes.
Because the album or the CD, we say, will be released soon.
Yes.
And you'll be able to get it on her website.
Yes.
And I know you're just like everybody else, because someone said, I think it was Jesus Blackman 23, said he's following Kevette now. So just follow her, and that way you stay up to speed on what's happening as far as her music and when it's going to be dropping.
Yes.
So
thank you. I appreciate your time and for having me. I appreciate talking to you.
Well, I enjoyed having you, and to our audience, thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, before you go trying to take care of someone else, make sure you take care of yourself first. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.